Welcome back, everybody. Mr. Everett, Sandwich High School, APUSH History, and we're doing a video lecture series on essay writing. So let's jump into this part. So this section is on there we go. Okay, writing effective free response essays. And thank you again to Keith Wood in Murray, Utah. So let's find out where Murray, Utah is. Okay, here's Murray, Utah, and it's right next to Salt Lake City, so it must be a suburb there. Must be beautiful, and not as beautiful as Sandwich, of course, but in the middle of the desert, it must have a certain element of beauty. Okay, so back to this video lecture series. So we're talking about writing effective free response essays. So let's jump into it. So free response essays in many ways are the heart of the AP exam. They measure your reasoning ability as well as your historical knowledge. And, you know, the key there is because they don't give you any documents. Okay? So to succeed with these essays, you must understand the prompts, organize your information, and write a clear and accurate response. Piece of cake. So free response essay prompts put a lot of responsibility on the writer. That's you. Okay, so don't worry, you know, we'll prepare you and we'll do a lot of practice in class. And of course, I just want to also mention, you know, that please send me any rough drafts, send me any emails concerning your free response questions, and I'll always be there to respond back to you, okay, as well as help you in class before and after school as well. Okay, don't worry. So, some prompts are very open. Here's an example of this type of prompt. So, the government under the Articles of Confederation has been considered a failure. Describe 3 actions of the Confederation government and explain how these actions may or may not have be considered failures. Okay, well, that's pretty explicit. Okay, these prompts require you to define the terms, specify the time period, and understand the task. So, for instance, the government under the Articles of Confederation has been considered a failure. Describe 3 actions of the Confederation government and explain how these actions may or may not be considered failures. So those are key if you focus on them in bold. Like we mentioned earlier about understanding essay prompts, you would identify these and focus on them. So to address the prompt, the following questions must be answered. What time period does the question address? 1781 to 1789 is the answer. What were 3 no more actions at the Confederation Congress that you are going to discuss, and how are you defining the words failure or success? Some prompts provide a clear time periods to be addressed. So, for instance, here are 2 prompts that specify very clear time periods to be discussed. The first, and we've talked about this before, compare and contrast U.S. foreign policy after the First World War and after the Second World War. Consider 1919 to 1928 and 1945 to 1950 in your response. And the second prompt here is, how did the African American civil rights movement of the 1950s and 60s address the failures of Reconstruction? So you would include information from 1950 to 1969 in your answer. These prompts require you to limit your evidence and to define certain terms. So, with the first prompt, compare and contrast U.S. foreign policy. The prompt, the following needs clarifying. So, deal only with foreign policy decisions. And this is really important, okay? Because it's very easy to get sidetracked by personalities in history. It's easy to get sidetracked by the larger issues concerning the wars themselves. But remember, your focus here is on the periods after these wars, not during, okay? So don't dwell on, periods that are not specifically in the prompt. You need to pick decisions that are both different and similar between the early and later time periods. Okay, so let's focus on the African American civil rights prompt. So this one requires you to specify what were several, quote, failures of Reconstruction. And, we'll get into this and you'll understand when we talk about Reconstruction, it's the period right after the Civil War when many issues concerning civil rights begin. It's also the period when segregation really begins, the legal separation of the races. So what does this have to do with the civil rights movement? Well, it implies that you know when Reconstruction occurred, okay? So, and to know several very specific results of the later civil rights movement that directly address the failures of Reconstruction. And, you know, this is an easy prompt because Dr. Martin Luther King's I Have a Dream speech refers specifically to that period, okay, 100 years after the ending of the Civil War. So let's look at some tips. Please make sure that you understand exactly what your task is and what you must prove in the essay. And remember, you're taking a position and defending it with evidence. Stay strictly within the time period. Don't wander. You must be specific, specific, specific. Oh, and specific. You should use relevant and time-sensitive PEPs. Now, you guys in Sandwich, you've got this down already. Okay? This is your, how do you guys call it? Oh, specdig, okay? Much better than PEPs. You never use generalities, okay? Don't say many reforms, lots of reformers, or many things changed. Be specific, okay? Talk about which specific reforms, who the specific reformers were, and what specific aspects of political, economic, social, military, cultural, etc. Changed. Don't use the word things. Okay, tip number 2, organize your thinking before you write. So this doesn't need to be a long process. Decide 2 or 3 things that you need to discuss. And remember, your focus here on a free response question is to provide a thesis and then get right to the answer. Okay, like what we're doing this week. Organize the facts you have under those headings. Okay, check through them to see that you balance the discussion. Give each part of the topic equal discussion. And remember, for the sakes of this PowerPoint, we're referring to the prompt on the American Civil Rights, African American Civil Rights movement, as well as the periods after World War I and World War II. So, this Mr. Keith Wood from Murray, Utah, uses his PEPs, but remember, you are very good with your specdig. So outlines do not have to be formal, just a sketch of structure, and then you put your facts into that structure. Okay, you want clarity and confidence. Don't be timid. Okay, be definite. Your thesis should answer the prompt with your opinion, or, as I like to say, position. Having brainstormed and then organized specific facts, start each paragraph with a clear topic sentence. And remember, that topic sentence in the beginning of your paragraph is going to outline the work that you're going to be doing from that point forward in that paragraph. Refer to specific facts to support your thinking. Stick to your structure. And remember, don't deviate from that. Refer to your outline as you write. Okay? Remember, good writing is problem solving. Okay? It's a problem-solving situation. Work the process. So, after writing your thesis paragraph, go back and reread the prompt. Ask yourself, have I answered the prompt with my thesis? Okay, what 3 or 4 points must you make to support your thesis? Write these down. And as you write, look back at your prompt and at your thesis. Are you sticking to the topic? Okay, plan your time so that you can read your essay before you finish. This is really, really important. Give yourself like 5 or 10 minutes at the end just to check things over and to take a deep breath. This is for the AP exam. Check the clock, know how much time you have left. Check your thesis and your outline frequently. Make sure you have time to go back and read, and don't ignore a conclusion. Okay, sometimes it makes up for a weakness earlier in the essay. And let's just focus on the summary here, okay? You're going to read the prompt completely more than once, know your task, write a thesis that addresses the prompt, write a general topic sentence that leads off each paragraph, and be specific with your body paragraphs, okay? Use your specdig, don't use any generalizations, okay? Organize before you write, and check your thesis and your outline as you write. And finally, leave time to read your essay before finishing. Now, for our purposes, I'm giving you take-home free response questions in the beginning of the AP US History class. So, you can have time to kind of rethink and redraft and resubmit to me the work that you're doing so far. Okay? You don't have to worry about these time constraints yet. We will be building towards that. Okay? But let's focus first on quality writing, clear thinking, a specific thesis, and some good research. Okay? And remember, I'm not looking for you to go over the deep end with your research. I don't, expect a, 3 or 4 page typed essay response. What I'm looking for here in answers to your FRQ prompts is specific information and that supports a specific thesis. Okay? Remember, it's practice. So that's it. Have a good night, and I'll see you in class.